Marina wakes from a nightmare of being trapped on railroad tracks with a train speeding toward her. She tells her husband, Igor, but he dismisses her concerns, focusing on which tie to wear for a TV interview. During the interview, Igor boasts about his business success and unexpectedly claims he wants 3 children, including a daughter, surprising Marina. Afterward, Igor admits he was pandering to the audience and dismisses Marina's desire to start a family, calling her too immature. At her catering business, Marina vents to her colleague, Anna, about Igor's indifference. While Marina dreams of a family, Igor remains preoccupied with wealth. Anna suggests Marina stop taking birth control, but Marina refuses, wanting Igor to desire children genuinely. Later, Marina discovers her mushroom delivery is bad and confronts the supplier, unexpectedly meeting her ex-boyfriend, Matvey. They catch up briefly, and Matvey reveals he is divorced with a daughter. Marina mentions her marriage to Igor, and they part ways. Marina tells Igor about meeting Matvey, and though initially upset, Igor insists she invite Matvey to their anniversary party. Reluctantly, Marina agrees. When Marina calls to invite him, Matvey's ex-wife, Larissa, overhears and criticizes him, reminding him of his daughter's heart condition. Matvey reassures her he'll prioritize Julia if needed. At the party, Igor flaunts his wealth to Matvey, making both Marina and Matvey uncomfortable. Alone in her flower room, Marina questions Matvey about their past, but when he tries to hold her hands, she pulls away, returning to the party. Afterward, Igor, drunk, confesses to Matvey that his business is failing, and he contemplates suicide. He asks for help with shady logistics, but Matvey declines. That night, Marina dreams again of being tied to train tracks, this time with Igor laughing above her. She wakes in panic as Igor announces a business trip. Later, Marina learns Igor has died, hit by a train. She identifies his body and mourns, recalling his favorite tie. Marina contacts Matvey for support, and he rushes to comfort her. When Marina tries to access money for Igor's funeral, she finds their account empty. She discovers Igor transferred their fortune to a woman named Angelica. Seeking closure, Marina tracks Angelica down, posing as her tailor. Angelica, unaware of Igor's death, reveals she had a long-term affair with him and lived comfortably off his money. One night, Marina awakens to 2 strangers threatening her. They demand money, claiming Igor said she knew where it was. When she insists she doesn't, one cuts her neck slightly and warns her to pay by month's end. The next morning, Marina visits Angelica's, where Angelica realizes Marina is Igor's second wife, not her seamstress. Marina informs her of Igor's death, causing Angelica to faint after a large drink of alcohol. Marina and Matvey put Angelica to bed, then care for her son until bedtime while she sleeps. Marina and Matvey stay overnight to ensure her and her son's safety. The next day, Angelica appears in good spirits. Before leaving, Matvey gives her his phone number and advises her to call him or the police if gangsters appear. At home, Marina learns from Harry, Igor's business partner, that their business has been bankrupt for a while and that Igor funneled money into businesses he tricked her into opening under the guise of signing home renovation contracts. Marina wants to shut them down, but Harry explains she must first pay off their debts. Shocked, Marina recalls Matvey's earlier warning that Igor confided in him about the business struggles and his fears for the future. Upset Matvey withheld this, Marina tells him to leave. That night, Matvey's ex, Larissa, visits him unexpectedly, bringing a cake. She tries to rekindle their relationship, but Matvey rejects her, reminding her of their constant fights. Frustrated, she accuses him of being disinterested because of Marina, then stays to eat her cake as Matvey goes to bed. Meanwhile, Marina has her recurring dream of Igor laughing over her as she's stuck on the railroad tracks. The next morning, she is arrested for large-scale fraud linked to the businesses Igor tricked her into opening. Though she pleads ignorance, the detective warns her that she could face up to 10 years in prison, though she can await trial at home. Later, when Matvey and Angelica can't reach Marina, they enter her house and find her unconscious on the floor with sedatives nearby. Angelica calls an ambulance while Matvey tries to wake her. In the hospital, Marina insists the pills were harmless supplements and shouldn't have caused an overdose. Meanwhile, someone is seen switching her pill bottles at home. Matvey bribes a doctor to discharge Marina from the hospital after her suicide attempt, despite the doctor wanting to admit her. Back home, Marina warns Matvey not to wait for her as she might face a 10-year sentence. Meanwhile, someone watches her from the bushes. Determined to help, Matvey pleads with the detective on her case, emphasizing her innocence and Igor's role in framing her. The detective reveals the victim of Igor's fraud is the powerful businessman Mr. Karamo. Matvey meets Karamo, who denies sending thugs to threaten Marina but admits they know who did. At Marina's house, Angelica visits to celebrate her recovery, revealing that Harry and Igor were trading illegal vodka and coerced her into their scheme. Meanwhile, Matvey confronts the thug boss under the pretense of borrowing money, asking him to leave Marina alone. The boss responds by having Matvey beaten. As Marina nurses his injuries, they share a tender moment and their first kiss in years. Larissa tells Harry at a restaurant that Marina is pursuing married men, including Matvey, and enlists his help. Intrigued, Harry agrees. Meanwhile, Matvey hires lawyer Nessa Goldsmith for Marina. Larissa overhears Matvey withdrawing money and later manipulates him into giving her his savings by claiming their daughter needs urgent surgery. Harry bribes Nessa by threatening to expose her past misconduct, successfully turning her against Matvey. Harry then informs Mr. Karamo that his plan worked. Thugs seize some of Marina's belongings as partial debt payment. That evening, as Marina tends to her flowers, she senses someone watching her. It's Igor, alive and observing her from outside. The next day, Matvey tells Marina Nessa will defend her, promising to find the funds needed. Igor later confronts Angelica, revealing he faked his death to escape debts and prison. When Angelica tries to cut ties, Igor threatens her and even her son. Karamo offers Matvey a way to cover Marina's debt by delivering vodka disguised as water. Later, Marina visits Angelica's house, but Angelica, now terrified of Igor, refuses to answer the door. Matvey calls the bank about his loan application and learns it was denied. Left with no other options, he approaches the thug boss for a loan, enduring threats about the consequences of not repaying. Marina consults her attorney, who suggests getting her declared mentally ill to avoid prison, reducing her sentence to 6 months in a psychiatric ward. Though hesitant, Marina agrees. Marina's recurring dream changes, with Matvey standing over her instead of Igor. When she tells Matvey about her plan to go to the ward, he disagrees and vows not to let her. Later, Matvey informs Mr. Karamo he will deliver the vodka. At work, Marina gets a call from the detective, who clears her of all charges. While she's thrilled, the detective reveals her lawyer wasn't responsible. Powerful people intervened. He suspects her guilt and expresses his desire to see her imprisoned. Larissa guilt-trips Matvey about neglecting their daughter, eventually convincing him to move back in for her sake. That night, Matvey tells Marina she can start fresh now that her problems are resolved but bids her goodbye, leaving her in tears. While having dinner with his daughter, Julia briefly chokes. Matvey rushes her to the doctor, who declares her healthy and reveals she doesn't have a heart condition. Julia admits she's only taking vitamins, not medication. Matvey confronts Larissa about her deception, and she admits she lied to keep him from leaving. Furious, Matvey tells her he's done with her and storms out. That night, Matvey and Marina meet in the park, where she professes her love. They kiss and spend the night together. The next morning, Marina wakes up nightmare-free. Matvey shares his dream and asks her to live with him. She agrees, but Igor arrives at her house as she's leaving. At Matvey's home, he proposes to Marina, and she happily accepts. The next day, Harry confronts Larissa, seeking proof of illegal transportation to blackmail Matvey and eliminate Marina. Igor promises Angelica everything she wants but insists Marina knows too much and must be dealt with. Angelica pleads for Marina's life, angering Igor, who silences her before leaving. Thugs tail Igor as he drives away. Mr. Karamo scolds Igor for his carelessness, reminding him he shouldn't be seen in town or have let his first wife know he's alive. Later, Matvey comes home drunk, bitterly declaring it, "National Say Goodbye to My Conscience Day." He berates Marina and their reality, prompting her to demand he grow up before leaving in frustration. Not long after Marina leaves, Matvey finds her walking along the road. He promises never to act that way again, and they hug. From a distance, Igor rolls down his window and pretends to shoot Matvey. The next morning, Marina asks Matvey to take a vacation that day, but he insists he has to work and suggests a weekend trip to the lake instead. At his office, a detective confronts Matvey about an illegal shipment and asks to see the documents. When Matvey gets home, he struggles to explain to Marina that he's been making illegal shipments to cover Igor's debt to protect her. She reassures him that he can tell her everything when the time is right. That night, while Marina sleeps, Matvey leaves her a note. The next morning, Matvey meets the detective, who clears him of any wrongdoing. But as Matvey leaves, one of Mr. Karamo's men forces him into a car. Mr. Karamo warns Matvey he'll be called to arrange shipments whenever needed. At home, Matvey apologizes to Marina and tells her he's booked a cabin for the weekend. Marina goes to buy train tickets but encounters Angelica, who warns her to leave if she values her life. Later, Marina discovers she's pregnant but is horrified when Igor appears, forcing her into a confrontation. Igor reveals Matvey's illegal activities and insists she return to him to save Matvey's life. Marina reluctantly agrees, breaking off her relationship with Matvey when he proposes that evening. The next morning, Larissa warns Marina to stay away from Matvey or she'll expose his illegal activities. Desperate, Marina confides in the detective, revealing Igor faked his death, but he dismisses her claims without evidence. Meanwhile, Eddie pressures Matvey about managing a shipment, threatening Marina's safety if he doesn't comply. Under surveillance, police move in, arresting Eddie and Mr. Karamo with Matvey's help. However, Igor captures Marina, claiming to protect her from those targeting Matvey. Igor's car stops near train tracks, and Marina pretends to cooperate while plotting her escape. When she tries to flee, Igor grabs her and drags her onto the tracks. Matvey arrives just in time, and together they fight Igor, who ends up being hit by a train. At the hospital, Marina tells Matvey she's pregnant. They kiss, thrilled about starting a family. Later, Igor, still alive, is ambushed and killed by lone shark thugs. Years later, Matvey and Marina enjoy a happy family life with their children. Matvey surprises Marina with land to fulfill her dream of growing their own food and opening a small family restaurant. Smiling, Marina embraces him, asking if she's dreaming. Thanks for watching. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment a movie you would like me to recap, and we'll see you for the next movie in a cup.